Hey, welcome to this episode of Happy in 15. Today's topic is more smiles, less time wasted. And joined today with me is Dom West, our enterprise sales manager, based in London. Hi, Dom.
Hi.
Actually, nice to have you now finally in Helsinki in the studio.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah.
Much cleaner air than London. A bit colder.
Yeah.
But yeah, great to be here.
Cool. So today's topic, it's our slogan, but what we're actually talking about, giving hours back to business.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some cases that we have seen, for example, I remember from 2019 in a knowledge event, we had Coca-Cola talking about giving million hours back to business.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really more about the HR thing and kind of how they improve the processes. But we never actually saw like how people quantify it, like real-time data of actually where did you actually save anything. And we had a previous episode with Reckitt, one of our customer, who actually saved 250,000 hours. So I'll show that case in a bit, how we actually can quantify that and what it really means. But let's start a little bit on how we define productivity and what are we saying when we talk about productivity. So in HappySignals, we have these two basic metrics. We tell people to align people with happiness, because for IT teams it's very easy to understand, okay, we'll try to make the end users happy with the services. It's very difficult if you give them a task, make them more productive. But what we have seen that if you use this happiness as the leading indicator, it actually leads to productivity. And where do we measure the productivity kind of comes back to our humans as the sensors. So we really measure it by asking how much of this, like let's say an ERP system, wastes your time in a month. How much time did you waste in this single ticket? And this is really, there are these, because the perception is different than the process. Mm-hmm. You could have a process measurement, but does it really affect the productivity is kind of the question that we are challenging people here. On average, HappySignals customers have been able to improve productivity by 26%. This is something we have been telling earlier as well. But what it really means now in numbers is 32 minutes per ticket. And if you start considering that maybe the ticket, maybe that time from the employee could be something like 20 to 30 euros or pounds or whatever, it actually starts to make up a pretty big number. Yeah. Now, coming back to the Reckitt case, actually showing from the real data how happiness kind of leads to productivity, we have these two graphs here. So this is from almost from 3 years of data that they have. You can see that the happiness is going up all the time, and that was really the key indicator. They only told the IT team that let's focus on the happiness number. They set a target for that one, and they were really able to actually achieve that target. At the same time, when we look the lost productivity timeline, it actually goes down. So there is this thing, and like Prashant then said from Reckitt that they were actually able to save 250,000 hours in a year. Yeah. I think because of the listeners are IT people, let's actually break down the numbers, what it meant, because when they started, the lost time for a ticket was 5 hours, 57 minutes. And then when we kind of ended the measurement that year, it was 5 hours and 6 minutes. So that's 51 minutes per ticket when human says that I feel you saved from me. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, and you're looking across hundreds of thousands of tickets,
yeah.
For an organisation of that size.
Exactly, they have 300,000 tickets annual.
Yeah, there we go.
So that's really something that they can always then show this graph from the tool. And now actually I noticed that if you take it now further, kind of to this day, they have even saved 5 minutes more.
There we go. Constant improvement.
Exactly.
Improvement.
Yeah. But hey, this is kind of our quick intro to the topic, how we think about it. But Dom, you talk a lot with large enterprises, kind of the challenges that they have. So what do you see out there when you're talking about it?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of my time is spent talking to large organisations, large enterprises. So anyone really from 1,000 up to hundreds of thousands of employees, and naturally with an enterprise of that sort of size, you get you have a complex environment.
Yeah.
So you're multi-geography, you're multi-services, you've got hundreds of different services. As we said, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tickets, and with each of those tickets comes a level of service that the end user, the employee, has received. But outside of that, you've also got everything non-ticket based. So your laptop, your device, perhaps an application that you use, and the key challenge, shared challenge across organisations from 1,000 to 100,000 is how do we measure, how do we quantify, how do we put a value on productivity? It's so complex. How do we measure that? How do we understand that? And critically, where do we identify the areas that we need to improve those services? And if you talk to, as I do quite a lot, IT management, IT leaders, where do we identify issues to bring productivity and hours back to the business? Where can we improve value, business value? That's the critical part, really.
Because I remember one call I was with you, and they were saying that we have like tens and hundreds of business processes. It's quite impossible to kind of start figuring it out which one of those actually makes the impact. That's why we have this people, process, technology thing. So if you start from the technology of processes and you hope that it creates an effect to the people, you might be missing the kind of what really matters.
So, and if you don't ask people, then how do you know? And that's the critical part of it, really. Exactly. Is that measuring in the first place and understanding exactly where people are losing time.
Right. Hey, let's have a quick view on how you actually use the experience data in the tool, because I think then that leads to the next topic right nicely, and kind of really showing, if you take this kind of screen, you take your business stakeholder or anybody like the IT management team, and you're only looking at, okay, how happy people are with the services, but then you might miss some things at some point. So you can always kind of switch here to the lost productivity view. And there, for example, let's think about services. So you're in the IT management team, which services should we now improve if we want to bring productivity to the business? You start looking like, okay, email and calendar, people are like on average losing 2 hours on things that they are having issues with. On Office tools, they are losing 6 hours. So that's like 4 hours more. So that's pretty clear indication that, hey, look there.
Where are you going to focus your improvement? On the area that you're losing. And it's so easy to see I think when people look at the product for the first time, in one view, okay, where are we green? Where are we red? And therefore, where do we need to focus our improvement?
Exactly. And sometimes you have these like very specific things, like you have your ServiceNow environment, you have your different channels that you're serving. We're talking the IT support here now. So you have chats, you have portals, you have emails, but then suddenly people are like as happy with each channel. So what do? That's really, I think, the power when you can then switch on okay, let's look at from productivity point of view. People are as happy with the chat as they are with email, but actually, if we can get the guys from email to service portal with say 1 hour from productivity, that's easy to communicate back to the employees that, hey, this is why we want you to use the portal, because it saves your time, more miles, less time wasted. And then saying that, hey, even if you then actually use the chat instead of the portal, you save yet another hour. So going to the business and saying that, hey, we're going to close down the email because we think, no, we don't think, we know you're going to save 2 hours per ticket from your business workers. So that's a little bit different conversation that coming from, hey, we have this cool tech that we want to deploy.
And also, those improvements, they don't always have to be, huge, behemoth changes across an organisation. They can just be small tweaks to process. But you're asking your end users. It's like anyone. If you have an issue with a service and you say you're unproductive, and then something changes with that service. Naturally, you feel happier and you're more productive because it was smoother the second time around. I think that's what we're trying to do.
And again, since we are measuring and asking from the end users, they must feel that they are more productive because they are saying so.
And that's really all that really all that matters.
So it's not based on some research that this Gartner report said that if you do this, you will make people like this. But actually asking from your own employees, the consumers of your services,
the true source of the information.
But hey, now we were looking kind of that when you have the experience data, this is very easy to understand. But of course, then the challenge is now that not many organizations yet have experience data. So at that point, you usually kind of come along and you help them to kind of understand. So what is actually how to make a business case? What is the return on investment? So tell us a little bit on that challenge.
So I suppose to give some initial context, often if you're looking to invest in something like experience management as part of your strategy, or even if it's not, and you truly believe in it, you need to get a level of investment from somewhere across the business. In order to do so, you need to prove the business value. So, okay, are we going to see return on investment on something like this? So, so we, certainly in the commercial team, we spend lots of time, we run sessions, we work alongside our potential customers to say, what do you need internally and how can we work together to help build a business case? And often at the crux of that is productivity, because as you said earlier, with the 32 minutes a ticket, you can really start to quantify financially. Okay, if we can save 250,000 hours, we can start to put a number on that. That's a lot of money across the business every year, and then it actually becomes the point where looking at experience management becomes a no-brainer, because as an IT leader you can go to the organisation and say, I can save you X amount of hours a year, and we can put a number on that, and that's critical to business case development.
Hey, there's one question I sometimes hear is like, so but what are they going to do with those hours? And I think our customer success person Ile put it quite nicely, that it's not IT's kind of thing to think what they do with it. That's then business's kind of problem. But at least you are measuring it, you're showing it, quantifying it. That what are you saving from the end users?
Absolutely, yes.
Have you had that conversation with somebody like?
Yeah, because ultimately, if I save an hour, how much of that time is necessarily going to be spent doing productive work? But it doesn't really matter. If that means that I can get out for a walk and clear my head, or whatever it might be, it's still hours back into my day that I can quantify. So we do work with that as well. That question comes up, and we have some kind of some metrics in there to help with that. Lots of work is done on that from our side.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else on the business calculation return on investment thing, like any challenges, any kind of things, so any kind of like happy things that they then realize when you do this work with the prospects?
Yeah. So there are the sort of two areas that we look at really. You've got return on investment across the service desk in particular. So can we help reduce the number of tickets that you're getting in total? Everyone has a cost per ticket metric that they'll look at, either internal service desk or vendor. So service desk side, can we make 10% improvement across your service desk, and therefore what value does that have? And then secondarily, to your point earlier, that average 26% increase in productivity. So actually from your end users directly too, where can we give them hours back? They tend to be the two metrics that we look at, and then we'll summarise that and look at the level of investment needed and go from there. Cool. Really.
Excellent. Hey, then maybe to the end, let's put like 3 kind of key takeaways from this episode. So I think the first one was that experience data allows you to identify critical touch point where productivity is lost. So I think that's probably something that you show pretty early on to people with the product, you in the demos, how you actually use it and how to identify things.
As I said, I think that it's critical to understand. Again, organisations often aren't doing it. They don't have a means or a way to measure it. So, as soon as people see the product, they go, okay, this looks fairly straightforward. So that's a big takeaway for me.
I think the second one is kind of very specific to HappySignals, that you need to be able to quantify the productivity loss. Yeah,
absolutely. And how do you do that? By asking people. And when you're getting thousands of pieces of response data, then quite quickly you can build that picture of where are we losing productivity.
Exactly. Again, I think here also the high volumes that we get is really a key to be able to do that, so that it's not individual opinion that you're talking about, but really
exactly a collective group opinion.
And those outliers kind of go away.
Agreed.
And then the last, and I think the most important thing for the IT management team, like making informed improvement decisions.
Well, that's it. You make the shift away from guesswork to data driven. In fact, organisations often that we work with, if they get on board with us, then they'll say, okay, we thought that was the problem. Our gut told us that, and now we have the data to back up that decision.
Yeah.
Completely. Be able to make informed investment decisions as well.
Yeah.
Where do we invest our money is critical too. So.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. So this was really about giving hours back to the business, and join us again for the next one. Hey, as we usually say here, stay happy and stay safe.